Every once in a while, you buy something and immediately regret it. It's okay, it happens to all of us. Many refer to this as buyer's remorse. I prefer to refer to this as pressured into a stupid decision by your spouse or best friend remorse. Either way, thanks to a new trend in exclusive content, do you ever feel like you might be overdoing it with all these, air quotes? But really, Kickstarters for board games are full of exclusive content. The trend is killing me because it's created not only buyer's remorse for those people that back a, stinker of a game, but also non-buyer's remorse for those of you who back great projects while the rest of us maybe never quite pulled the trigger on them. That's what happened to me. I wasn't so sold on this so-called, choose your own adventure game about exploring an unknown continent. But after being bombarded with its positive reviews from many, many reviewers, I knew I needed to track down a copy. So, in this video, I'm going to talk briefly on my opinions of Kickstarter exclusives, the element of exploration in the seventh continent, as well as my thoughts on the game's replayability, kind of as a initial impressions, so to speak, for the game. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump to said impressions for the seventh continent. First and foremost, probably should get an idea of how the game is played. This will help you understand better kind of what I'm talking about later on. You will play as adventurers on a strange, unexplored continent where you are tasked with finding the way in which you lift this curse that you find upon yourselves. Where and how this is done is left for you to discover as you play. Players will traverse the various parts of the continent in the form of cards, each preceded by a semi-random event. The manner in which you resolve these events, as well as taking actions like hunting or investigating or whatever it may be, is done through drawing cards from a communal deck. This deck represents the party's life force. Gosh dang it, stupid bunny ears. Most tests have a minimum number of cards that you are required to draw, and a required star value in order to be successful. You may draw more cards typically to further increase your odds of the number of stars coming up, but this depletes your life force even quicker. When the deck runs out, you'll flip it over, and this discard pile will now be your draw pile. And if you draw from it again, revealing a curse, well, now you all have met your death. Okay, time to talk some board games. We are, talking board games here. First and foremost is Kickstarter exclusivity. This current trend in Kickstarter games doesn't appear to be changing anytime soon, for better or for worse. So we'd better just make the most of it. Simon, to me, is the master of exclusives. If you've ever looked at one of their campaigns, you will know why. Because they almost double the amount of content that backers get for backing their games on Kickstarters. But many other publishers are also getting on board. Some companies are even choosing to avoid any official retail release and instead creating games that are exclusive just to the backers of the Kickstarter. Crazy, right? Some of these examples include the very popular and very anticipated Batman Gotham City Chronicles, Mythic Battles Pantheon, as well as, Seventh Continent. Currently, there are too many board games being published through Kickstarter, making it almost impossible to back all of them. And when I say almost impossible, it is impossible. There's too many. My suggestion is to do the research on the ones that interest you most, and then pick which one you think you'll enjoy the most. The best way to do this is, do a little research. The majority of the large campaigns now feature some sort of preview videos, playthroughs, as well as copies of the rules, PDFs you can download and read. These are all great resources to check out before deciding to back a game or not. And if worse comes to worse, and you do end up with non-buyer's remorse, much as I did, all is not lost. You can always pay a pretty penny to buy a copy off of an original backer, who perhaps ended up with buyer's remorse. This seems to be maybe the only way to do it at this point, hence my copy of Seventh Continent showing up a little bit later and a little more pricier than I had hoped. Number 2, Exploring a continent. Let me just start off by saying the exploration in this game is fantastic. What Serious Pulp has done is nothing more than magical, and it's done with just a bunch of cards. Not knowing what an adjacent card holds as you're trying to reveal it and explore this island can drive you crazy. So naturally you explore it, and upon flipping it over, you now have 3 new cards that you need to explore and discover. Like I said, magical. I am thoroughly enjoying uncovering the continent island by island, terrain by terrain, but I am already dreading the moment that this magic dissipates and it becomes nothing more than another chunk of rock and dirt printed on a deck of cards, as many continents end up being. And this leads me to my final point, and that is point number 3, replayability. So, not quite sure how this is going to hold up. So far, I'm enamored by the game, but I do have my reservations. For me, the highlight of the game is the exploration and the decisions you get to make as you proceed across the continent. Unfortunately, while innovative, the accompanying push your luck mechanic. As I was saying, the push your luck mechanic of resolving everything can start to feel a little repetitive during a 3-hour game session. The decision space in choosing how many cards to draw and what cards from your hand maybe to play or items to use to increase your odds just isn't as rewarding as I was hoping it'd be. Not to say it's not good, it is good, enjoyable, but just not quite living up to what I'd wanted. In the end, I think a lot will depend on how fresh each additional curse feels, as well as whether or not I can turn off my Eurogamer brain and enjoy a play of this without trying to optimize everything. In the base box, there are like 4 curses, the expansion will hold 5 more, and there's a couple add-ons. We'll see. In summary, I'm glad that this game is one that I was able to track down. And for now, I'm enjoying the freedom to explore the continent and play the game as I like, you know? But I do have my reservations, and it's not just about the replayability, but also the long-term enjoyment of the game's core mechanisms. While good, they may not be substantial. So like I said, I'm super excited to continue playing the 7th continent. I've only really dipped my toes into the first major curse, so I'll have a better idea of how the other curses are incorporated into the island, as well as, hang on to it and hold tight for the expansion coming early next year and see how that changes things, exploring through the sky in a hot air balloon and underground in these cavernous rivers. I don't know. It looks good. But anyways, those are my initial thoughts for the 7th continent. Feel free to check it out. Like I said, it's pretty difficult to get at this point. But if it sounds like something that you're going to enjoy, I think you will definitely enjoy it. But if you ever get offered the chance to play it, don't pass it up. It's one of those games along the lines of Gloomhaven that's just, it's a design wonder. And it deserves, all the praise that it's gotten. So, yeah. I am Ben. And Tommy is not around, but we are talking board games and doing him the courtesy of saying thanks for watching, like, share, comment, subscribe, give me your thoughts on this game and any of the talking points that I mentioned, and I'd be happy to read them. Anyways, we'll see ya.